Give them a minute to do that. Members of the Board of Trustees Executive Committee, please respond present when you hear your name. Chairperson Thompson.
Present.
Vice Chairperson Schwartz.
Present.
Trustee Cortez Vasquez is absent and excused. Trustee Clark. We'll leave that. She may be joining us. Trustee Ferrer.
Present.
Great. Trustee Oberfell should be joining us. We'll leave that. Trustee O'Donnell-Tormey.
Present.
And Trustee Kim.
Present.
So we have a quorum, Bill.
All right. This public meeting of the Executive Committee is now called to order. On March 7, 2020, Governor Cuomo issued Executive Order 202, declaring a state of emergency in response to the COVID-19 outbreak. On March 13, 2020, Governor Cuomo issued Executive Order 202.1, which included a suspension of law allowing the attendance of meetings telephonically or other similar services. Article 7 of the Public Officers Law, to the extent necessary to permit any public body to meet and take such actions authorized by the law without permitting in-public, in-person access to meetings and authorizing such meetings to be held remotely by conference call or similar service, provided that the public has the ability to view or listen to such proceeding and that such meetings are recorded and later transcribed. In accordance with the executive order, this board meeting is being held via audio conference with a live stream found at the CUNY Board of Trustees website. A copy of the calendar is also available online at the CUNY Board of Trustees website. As a reminder, please mute your audio so we can ensure that everyone can hear. I'd like to ask the Secretary to take a roll call attendance from members of the Chancellery and other invited guests.
Okay, so members of the Chancellery, please respond present when you hear your name. Chancellor Matos Rodriguez.
Present.
General Counsel and Senior Vice Chancellor for Legal Affairs, Derek Davis.
Present.
Executive Vice Chancellor and University Provost, Jose Luis Cruz. Okay, Executive Vice Chancellor and Chief Operating Officer, Hector Batista.
Present.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Gail. Let's now turn to the items requiring a vote today. Given that all board members are participating remotely, I will announce the resolutions and ask for members to respond only if you'd like to abstain or oppose an item. Otherwise, your vote will be recorded as a yes vote. If you're voting no or abstaining, please state your name and vote. Additionally, if you wish to second an item or have any questions or comments, please state your name first for the record, and let's try and avoid speaking over one another. We're going to take up the following item for approval: a resolution declaring June 19th, 2020 as Juneteenth, a holiday for all employees of the City University of New York. Let me now call on Senior Vice Chancellor and General Counsel Derek Davis to provide further background on this item.
Thank you, Chairperson Thompson. As many of you know, yesterday our governor announced and issued an executive order number 204, declaring this Friday, tomorrow, to be a holiday recognizing Juneteenth. Now, Juneteenth is the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States. Without boring you with a history lesson, you probably also know that the Emancipation Proclamation was announced by President Lincoln on January 1, 1863. However, it wasn't for another 2 years, in June, on June 19th exactly of 1865, when the Union Army, led by General Gordon Granger, landed in Galveston, Texas, to announce to enslaved blacks that they were in fact free. Now, some might wonder, why did it take 2.5 years and a delay to receive the good news of the emancipation of slaves? There were many stories around this. One is that the messenger who was issued by the White House was murdered on his way to Texas back in 1863. Another long-held legend is that the news was deliberately withheld from enslavers to maintain the labor force on the plantations in Texas and in the Deep South. And still another was that the federal troops actually waited for the slave owners to recap the benefits of one last cotton harvest before going to Texas to enforce the Emancipation Proclamation. All of which, or none of which, of these versions could in fact be true, but nevertheless, Juneteenth did not come into legend as it is today until June 19th, 1865. And since that period, we've had periods of growth and interest in this holiday, certainly during the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s, and then it fell out of favor for some period of time. But I can only speculate that in light of what is transpiring in our society today, in the United States and around the world, our governor, in his good graces, thought it was appropriate that we recognize this holiday and recognize this celebration of the news of the liberation of slaves in Texas in 1865 and recognize the contributions of African Americans, not only in the state of New York, but all around the world. So that is the background. And just one other final note, the governor, while it is a holiday this Friday, he did announce yesterday that he would be drafting legislation to be considered by the state legislature to make it a permanent holiday in the state of New York, which this particular executive order cannot and will not do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Derek. Gail, does the resolution have to be read in, or it's been posted so we already
No,
have
it's been posted publicly, so you're good. And I think that Brian Obergefell may have just joined as well, but no need to read it.
I have, and I've listened to a lot of it, so I'm
Great.
good.
Right. No, we heard you when you joined. With
good.
that, before we go to a vote, let me start, and then I'll ask also if any of my colleagues have comments. But I'd like to commend the governor in having New York State lead the way nationwide. I've been calling some of my friends, letting him know that our governor has gotten in front of this country and mentioned the importance in making this a holiday for state employees of Juneteenth. And, people have been laudatory across the nation, and the friends that I've reached out to let them know. So I'd like to commend Governor Cuomo for having New York lead the way. It's something I'm very proud of, and recognizing contributions of African Americans and the ending of slavery at that point, and how much of a celebration that was. And as I said, it was delayed, and those in Texas found out late. But our governor stepping forward. So I just like to mention that. Does anybody else have any comments? All right. With that, I move in approval of this item. Do I have a second?
Second, Brian Obergefell.
Any further discussion on this item? All right, we will now vote. Please only respond if you like to abstain or oppose. Hearing no objections, the item is approved. Let me thank all my colleagues for for coming together so quickly to be able to do this. With no more items on the agenda, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Hearing no objections, we are adjourned. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. All right, bye.
Thank you.
Bye.